Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Welcome to today's biology class. Today is the first class on the chapter 9, Firmness and Locomotion. From the title of this chapter, we can understand that this chapter will discuss about the system of our body that provides the body shape and provides strength of the body and protects the internal organs, and that also helps in locomotion, also helps in movement. So in this chapter, today's class we will discuss about the concept of locomotion. Why is locomotion important for animals, important parts of human skeleton and their position, and the functions of skeleton of human body. At first we discuss about locomotion. Locomotion is an important feature of life. From the concept of class 6, we know that a living organism or life must contain different features. So one important feature of life is locomotion. What is the definition of it? Locomotion is the movement of animals from one place to another place by their own effort. And locomotion is important for especially animals because animals need to search for their food. They have to travel from one place to another for collection of their food, in search of food. For example, we see the migratory birds that come in our country in winter season. Actually, they come from far places like Siberia, and when there is winter in the cold regions, that becomes too much hard for the survival, and there is shortage of food, that they come to the tropical countries in search of food, where they find relatively comfortable. They find relatively comfortable weather and much more abundant food. And after when the winter season ends, they return back to their original place like Siberia or Himalaya, etc. And animals have to move from one place to another place for their protection, to save from the wildfire, or to save itself from the attack of predatory animals, etc. And that is also important for breeding purpose. We know that the hilsa fish is actually an marine fish, but when the time of breeding comes, they have to release their eggs into the water. At that time, they come to the fresh water that they can release their eggs, so the released eggs will not be destroyed in the fresh water. And when their breeding is completed, when they release their eggs successfully, then they return back to their original marine ecosystem. So we say that locomotion is important for various purposes for life of an animal. In a life of an animal, here we see an amoeba. An amoeba has a limited locomotion capacity. It has some pseudopods in its body, so that it can move very slowly. And in case of human, we have a human skeletal system attached with muscles, so that our body can move and we can walk or run. And locomotion of earthworm is very much different. The earthworm has no skeletal system inside. It only has different muscles in its rings. By contraction and expansion of these muscular rings, it can move forward and backward. So when we jump into the discussion of human skeleton, we know that the matured human body contains about 206 bones. In adult human, it contains 206 bones. But when he was an infant, the number of bones were about more than 300. But as he matures and grows to the adult stage, and the smaller bones fuse together, and ultimately it produces 206 bones. And these 206 bones are not similar in size or shape. There are different type of bones present. For example, some bones are long, some are flat, some are small, some are unequal. For example, the bone present in the hand, humerus bone, is a long bone. Also, a femur bone present in thigh, in leg, that is also a long bone. And some bones are flat. For example, the bones present in the skull, the cranium. There are frontal bone, parietal bone, occipital bone. These bones are rounded shape or flat. And some bones are small in size. For example, in our wrist, carpal. Carpal actually, in our wrist there are small 8 carpal bones present, and they are bounded with a ligament bandage. So they reside at a particular place. And there are some bones which are irregular in size, in shape. For example, the bones are present in our vertebral column. The 33 vertebrae present in the vertebral column, all of them are irregular in shape and unequal. Also, some bones are patella bones. They are present at our leg. Sesamoid bone, or its shape is like elliptical shape. And then when we discuss about the skeletal system, we can first categorize it into 2 broad regions. The central part, the central axis part, is called the exoskeleton, and the other parts emerging from the axial skeleton, and the other parts attached with the exoskeleton is called the appendicular skeleton. For example, the central axis part of the human bone that contains the skull and the vertebral column and the ribs, a thoracic case, they makes the axial skeleton of our skeletal system. And the other parts connected with the axial skeleton part is called the appendicular skeleton. For example, the shoulder girdle, the pelvic girdle, the hands and the legs, all of them makes the appendicular skeleton. Now we will start from the top part of our skeletal system, that is called skull or koroti. Banglaয় বলা হয় koroti. And the skull that is made up of numerous number of bones, but for simplicity we will discuss the skull into 3 regions. We will divide the skull into 3 regions. The first one is cranium, maxilla and mandible. So here cranium refers to the part, the brain case, that encloses the brain of our head. So the part of the skull that encloses the brain, that is called brain case or cranium. And the upper jaw part is called the maxilla, and the lower jaw is called mandible. So here we see the cranium. Cranium should have a spelling of cranium. Here is a spelling mistake. cranium, that is cranium. And cranium is not a single bone. Actually, that is a region made up of multiple bones. For example, the cranium contains the frontal bone, parietal bone, occipital bone, etc. So the skull is divided into 3 parts. And then when we comes down from the skull, then we get the vertebra present at the neck, and then it goes to the shoulder, and at the shoulder we get 2 regions, 2 type of bones. In the shoulder region, that is called shoulder girdle, it contains 2 type of bones. For example, this bone is called the clavicle bone, and this bone is called the scapula. So the 2 bones present at the front part are called clavicle bones, and the bones present at the backward position, these 2 bones are called scapula. So this is a human skeleton. The skeletal system is first divided into 2 regions. This region, this central part, is called the exoskeleton. Here we see the blue colored part, exoskeleton, and the other parts connected with the skeletal with the axial skeleton system is called the appendicular skeleton. So this blue colored part is now the appendicular skeleton. And when we start from our head, and inside our head, that is there is the skull. So this total part is called the skull of our human skeletal system. And inside the skull, the main region of the skull is called the brain case or cranium. So this total part is called the cranium, and you see the cranium is made up of multiple number of bones, multiple number of flat bones. So after this cranium, then we go to the maxilla. Maxilla are called the upper part, upper jaws. So here we see there are right jaw and the left jaw, right maxilla and the left maxilla. So there are two maxilla present at the upper jaw, and there is only one mandible present at the lower jaw. So there are the three regions or parts of the skull. Then we go to the shoulder girdle. So here we see there's two are clavicle, and there's back two are the scapula. So now we will only see the shoulder girdle now, or hide others. So here we see the front two bones present in your skeletal system in the shoulder. These two are clavicle, and the backward two are called the scapula. And now we will come down further and go to the place of our chest. So in the chest region, we find we term this part as thoracic case. বাংলায় বলা হয় বক্ষপিঞ্জর. And in the region of thoracic case, the sensitive organs of our body, lungs, heart, etc., they are safely enclosed inside this region. And this region is divided into two main bones. There is a long bone present at the middle, that is called the sternum, and with the sternum there are multiple number of curved bones present. These curved bones, each of them are called rib. So there are multiple number of ribs present connected with the sternum, and that makes up the thoracic case. And when we go down further, we actually cross the 33 vertebra present in the vertebral column, and this vertebral column ends at the pelvic girdle. So here we will only discuss about five major regions or bones present at the pelvic girdle. At first there are 33 vertebra that comes to the pelvic girdle, and then the end part of the vertebra is called the sacrum, and it ends at the last part called coccyx. So the vertebra ends in so the later part of vertebra is the sacrum, and the later part of sacrum is called coccyx. And then in the pelvic girdle region, here we see two long curved bones called ilium. So the right ilium and the left ilium, and the bottommost part are called pubis. In your book there is a small printing mistake, that is the top bone should be ilium, not pubis, and the bottom bone should be pubis, not ilium. So you should correct the mistake of your figure in your book. So now here we are at the thoracic case now. So there is the thoracic case, and the main flat bone is called the sternum. This part is called the sternum, and with the sternum here we see multiple number of ribs are attached with it. That totally makes the thoracic case. And when we come down through the vertebra, we see the vertebra ends, and vertebra ends into the part called sacrum, and then the last part is called coccyx. And in the pelvic girdle region, there's only the pelvic girdle region. Here we see these bandage-like parts are called the ligaments, and at the end of this chapter we will describe about them, what are ligaments and how it looks like. So here you see there are multiple number of ligaments present at the pelvic girdle. So that is not our topic of interest at this moment. So these two bones are called ilium, and the two bottom bones, these two, are called the pubis. So these two are ilium and these two are pubis. Then we are describing about the appendicular skeleton, the skeletal system, the bones present at the hand. So the longest bone of the hand is called the humerus. The top bone is called the humerus, and at the bottom of it there are two bones. They are called radius and ulna. So the bone that is in line with the thumb, that is the radius bone, and the bone that is in line with the smallest finger bone is called the ulna. Then here we see multiple number of small bones are present at the wrist. So at the wrist there are actually 8 carpals. They are all bandaged with a ligament. They are carpals, and at the bottom of it there are 5 bones which are called metacarpals, and at the bottom of the metacarpals there are 5 small bones. They are called phalanges. So carpal, 5 metacarpals, 5 phalanges. So there's 6 parts makes up the upper limb. And when we go to the lower limb, inside of leg, and the longest bone of our body and also in the leg is called the femur. So femur is a type of long bone, and at the bottom of the femur we get the patella. Patella is also called the kneecap, and along with it there are more 2 bones present at this. They are tibia and fibula. The front bone is called tibia, and the back and thin bone is called fibula. And then like the hands and legs, for example, in our hand we got carpals. So in our leg we have tarsals. So at the end of the leg there are multiple number of tarsal bones present, and they are all connected with a ligament bandage. And at the end of tarsal there are 5 metatarsals, and at the end of 5 metatarsals there are 5 phalanges. In our upper limb, so that is the longest bone in the hand, that is humerus. At the bottom of it there are 2 bones called radius and ulna. So this bone in line with the thumb is called the radius, and the and the other bone is called the ulna, that is in line with the smallest finger bone. And inside this bandage ligament there are 5 carpals. At the bottom of it there are 5 metacarpals, and at the bottom of this there are 5 phalanges. These are 5 phalanges. Now we're going to the lower limb. At the lower limb, the longest bone in our body is called the femur, and then there is the kneecap, the sesamoid bone present, and at the bottom of it there are 2 bones. This main bone is called the tibia, and the thin bone at the back of it is fibula. At the end of it there are metatarsals present, and metatarsals are arranged in a place by ligament. So here you see there are multiple number of bones present. There are multiple number of small bones present here. After the tarsals, we find 5 metatarsals. These are 5 metatarsals. At the end of it, there are 5 phalanges. They are the phalanges. So I hope you have understood all the parts of the human skeletal system. Let's revise. At first, we have divided the skeletal system of human body into 2 regions. The first one is axial skeleton at the center part of the skeletal system, and the other parts emerging from the axial skeleton is called the appendicular skeleton. So the axial skeleton is made up by the skull, the vertebral column, and the thoracic case, and the appendicular skeleton is made up with shoulder girdle, pelvic girdle, upper limb, and lower limb. And first we start from the head. This part is called the skull, and that is divided into 3 regions. The first one is cranium, and there are 2 maxilla and 1 mandible, and then we get bottom of it, and there is a shoulder girdle. There are 2 clavicle and 2 scapula present at the shoulder girdle, shoulder region. Then thoracic case. This thoracic case protects the internal organs like lungs and heart, and this thoracic case is made up of a sternum and with multiple number of ribs attached with it. And in the pelvic girdle, the vertebral column enters here, and there are 33 vertebrae present at the vertebral column, and the end part of it is sacrum, and at the end of it there is coccyx. And in the pelvic region there are 2 big bones. There are 2 ilium bones, and there are 2 pubis bones. And when we talk about the upper limb contains the longest bone of the hand, humerus, and then radius, ulna, and carpal, metacarpal phalanges. And at the lower limb, the longest bone of the body is femur, and then kneecap, patella, tibia, fibula, tarsals, metatarsals, and phalanges. So by this way we have memorized and understood the position and name of 25 major bones of our body. Then we are discussing about the functions of human skeleton. The first function is to form the body structure and to join different body parts and to provide a shape of the body. The second function is to help in movement and locomotion, and that is also assisted with the muscular system. It protects the internal organs of our body like brains, heart, and lungs. They are comfortably enclosed in the brain case or in the thoracic case. The human skeleton also provides the site of production of red blood cells, because in the later discussions we will know that inside the bones of the human skeleton there are parts called red bone marrow, from which red blood cells are produced, and also in the bones there are a yellow bone marrow from which white blood cells and platelets are also produced. And these bones also stores calcium, potassium, and phosphorus, because when there is so much higher concentration of minerals in the blood, then these extra ions are deposited into our skeleton, into our bones, and again reversibly, when there is shortage of ions in the blood, then these bones will release these necessary ions and minerals to provide an optimum level of ion concentration in our blood. So let's revise what we have understood. We have understood what is locomotion and why is locomotion important for animals. Animals go from one place to another place for breeding purpose or for protection or for in search of food. And there are important 25 bones present at the human skeleton. We have understood, we have known their names, and we have also understood their location in the position in the human skeletal system. And the function of skeleton in our human body, like to store different minerals or to help support in locomotion. So at the end of the lesson, you have a homework to draw a level figure of human skeletal system. No more today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.